7 gunshots shattered the peace, tearing through the quiet neighborhood, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. This is not just a crime, it's a chilling narrative of how obsession can turn love into lethal violence, destroying an innocent life and forever scarring. Kaylie Juga, a vibrant 15-year-old high school student from Kenosha, Wisconsin, was the embodiment of youthful energy and ambition. A dedicated varsity cheerleader and a key player on the softball team, she also maintained an impressive academic record as an honor roll student at Bradford High School. Friends and family consistently described Kaye as someone who excelled at everything she pursued, brimming with an infectious zest for life. She harbored a deep passion for music and dance, and her presence was known to light up any room. However, her bright future came to an abrupt halt on that fateful day. The date was Thursday, May 9, 2019. Just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Stephanie Jugga left her home to pick up her daughter Kaye from school. Stephanie, who ran her photography business from their house, often handled the school pickups for her 3 children. Their eldest, Tyler, had already moved out, and 11-year-old Mason, the youngest, attended a local primary school. At approximately 2:20 in the afternoon, Stephanie and Kaye pulled into their driveway, opened the garage door, and entered the house. Inside, they put on some music. This was their cherished time together, just the girls alone at home. They danced, joked, and simply relaxed. A few minutes after their return, Kaye headed to her room to prepare for her part-time job, while Stephanie retreated to the master bathroom to finish drying her hair. Then, precisely at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the tranquility was shattered. The sound of gunshots pierced through the noise of the hairdryer, immediately followed by screaming. At 3:02 in the afternoon, Stephanie, barricaded in the master suite, desperately dialed 911. Unaware of the true extent of Kaye's injuries, she feared leaving the room, terrified the shooter might still be inside. Yet, amidst the terror, a chilling certainty gripped her. She believed she knew exactly who the assailant was. Her daughter's ex-boyfriend.
Is her ex-boyfriend? Yeah. Do you know where he is? No, I don't think that you must be for work. Please. Okay, how old are you? I'm 48, 39. Oh my God. Oh my God, no. There's a 109. Somebody just came in. Shocking coincidence. She just killed my daughter. Okay. 14. I need your help. Please. I'm getting you help. You don't know where he is? No, I'm not together.
Oh my God, her ex-boyfriend, Stephanie cried to the 911 dispatcher. She was 39 years old, trapped and terrified, fearing for her daughter's life. Although Stephanie couldn't be certain at the time, police would later confirm that the shooter had already fled the house before her desperate call. The attack was over.
Okay, you think he could go running? I don't know where he is. Where is your daughter? She's in the bedroom? Yeah, who is that, Kaylie? Okay, what is his name again? Monkey Phillips. F-U-L-L-E-R? Monkey Phillips? Your vehicle, or did he come on foot, you know?
Uncertain of this critical fact, Stephanie nevertheless defied her fear. She left the safety of the bathroom, rushing back to Kaye's room. There, she found her daughter on the floor. Deputies from the Kenosha Sheriff's Department, along with EMTs, arrived swiftly. They found Stephanie in the bedroom with Kaye. Stephanie had sustained a gunshot wound to her left arm just above the wrist, and a second shot had struck her right side. Despite her own severe injuries, she had been vigorously performing CPR on her daughter. Kaye was immediately rushed from the house to the front yard for further emergency treatment, while Stephanie was transported to a hospital only a few blocks away. But even with the rapid response and the hospital's close proximity, Kaye's injuries proved too severe. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's report later revealed the horrific truth. 4 gunshot wounds to her chest and a 5th to the head. Medical staff would later speculate that even if a team of surgeons had been physically present in Kaye's bedroom the moment her attacker fired, They would not have been able to save her.
There's a lot of people coming. A lot. They're gonna come help you, okay? Oh my God. How old is this Marquise? 15. 15? Yes.
Stephanie Jugga miraculously survived the attack after undergoing multiple surgeries to her arm, chest, and abdomen. As soon as she was physically able, she spoke to detectives, recounting the terrifying moments before she was shot. She described hearing a blood-curdling scream, followed by a loud bang from her daughter's bedroom. Rushing to check on Kaye, she saw him standing at the threshold, her daughter's ex-boyfriend, 15-year-old Martis Fuller. She pleaded with him, "You don't have to do this." His chilling reply, "Yes, I have to." He then raised his arm to his chest and fired. Stephanie managed to escape behind her bedroom door, but he pursued her, kicking it open before firing once more. Retreating further into the master suite, she managed to lock herself into the bathroom, where she made 2 desperate phone calls, the first to her husband, the second to 911. In the immediate aftermath, Martis Fuller, believed to be the shooter, had vanished. Yet, despite the chaos, Stephanie Jugga was uniquely positioned to identify him. Martis had entered the Jugga family's lives a year prior. When Kaye first brought her new boyfriend home, he was generally well received. Stephanie remembered believing he was a good kid, an athlete with college aspirations and a stable future. Martis played basketball and was the quarterback for the football team, while Kaye joined the cheer squad. They truly appeared to be a picture-perfect young couple. Over the next 10 months, Martis regularly had dinner at the Jugga household, often 2 or 3 times a week. He would stay into the evenings, watching movies with the family, attending Kaye's younger brother Mason's football games, and even spending major holidays, including Christmas Day, at their home. But as time went on, the relationship between the young teens developed an increasingly unhealthy dynamic. Martis seemed to demand constant contact with Kaye. She would keep him on video calls at home, even while doing homework, watching TV, or messaging other friends. If she was out, he would call and text incessantly, refusing to stop, even when Stephanie calmly explained that his behavior was disruptive to the family. He simply rejected her assertion, laughed it off, and continued his persistent calls. Meanwhile, the teenage rumor mill churned on social media. Accusations that Martis was spending time with another girl found their way to Kaye, and it seemed he responded by launching similar accusations at her. The summer before the murder, a friend posted to Martis, "Weren't you just hanging out with another girl yesterday? Kaye deserves better." On X, then Twitter, Kaye herself wrote, I didn't do anything, can never believe me, I swear to God, sick and tired of this." An assumed third party wrote, "Me or Kaye," and, chillingly, Lamau, "Wait, but you cheated on both of us. And funny because he was with me yesterday at school." Martis's controlling behavior escalated alarmingly. An incident in the hallway at Bradford High School took a terrifying turn when Martis blocked Kaye and demanded she hand over her cell phone. School security had to be called to de-escalate the situation and physically restrain Martis. The experience left Kaye in tears. Following this, the school instructed Martis to maintain his distance. Their class schedules were altered and an agreement was put in place. One more outburst and he would be expelled. No more sports teams, no chance of a scholarship. He was to have no contact with Kaylie Juga. In February, he violated the agreement. He cornered Kaye once more. This time, the incident was witnessed by teachers and captured on camera. Martis nonetheless denied it, but he was expelled and reportedly furious. By spring, Kaye had finally broken things off. She had initially minimized the incidents at school, not wanting to get her boyfriend into further trouble. But after the expulsion, Kaye had had enough, posting about someone assumed to be Martis taking advantage of her. "Start having respect for yourself and don't let that happen," she wrote. Her ex-boyfriend responded by stalking her every move. On Twitter, she posted, "Keep lurking, baby." He was spotted walking back and forth outside the Jugga house in the afternoons. Other times, he lurked outside at night, secretly looking towards Kaye's bedroom window while the family slept. His phone calls continued, so Kaye blocked his number. Martis then began calling her from friends' phones. Sometimes, he would have them speak with her briefly before handing the phone to him. Kaye began blocking those numbers as well. When out with girlfriends, they agreed not to post selfies online, giving away their locations. And they never shared their plans on social media for fear that Martise would see it and turn up uninvited. At the tender age of 15, Kaye was tragically forced to resign from her first job at a local laundromat because she felt unsafe being alone at work. The owner had made concessions for his young employee. Martise's phone number was blocked from the business line, and Kaye was allowed to keep the doors locked when working alone, only unlocking the entrance as customers approached and knocked to be let in. Despite these measures, she was constantly on edge. In April, she wrote to her first employer, Brian, "Thank you for the opportunity to work for this company. I appreciate you hiring me for my first job. Unfortunately, due to the situation that has been going on in my personal life, for my safety, I will need to look for a job with multiple people around and where he will not know where I work." Kaye found a new job, hoping her ex-boyfriend would never discover its location. Immediately after the shooting, Kenosha police launched an intensive manhunt for the 15-year-old suspect. They quickly discovered he hadn't been living at his mother's house for weeks, instead, bouncing from one friend's home to another, crashing on couches wherever he could. When law enforcement tracked down his mother, Elise Fuller, she told them her son could not be the shooter because he had been at her home from noon to 3 o'clock that afternoon, a time period directly overlapping with the murder. However, a friend of Martise's, named Alexis, offered a drastically different version of events. She told police that Martise had been at her house the night before, and she had given him a ride to another friend's home at 1 o'clock that day, just 10 blocks away from the Jugga household. Martise then asked to be picked up at roughly the same location at 3:30. When Alexis did so, he was wearing the same clothes, but now his white sneakers were extremely dirty, and he seemed visibly upset. The next morning, Kenosha police received a crucial call from Martise's cousin, Annalise Andrews, who lived in Racine. She told them that, to her surprise, her young cousin had turned up at her home around 9 o'clock the previous night. She allowed him to stay for a few hours to see family, but when he refused to leave, she made the difficult decision to turn him in. "You know what you got to do. You can't keep waiting. You can't keep standing around here. I know you want to see your family and everything, but the time is almost up. Anything could happen to you at this point," Annalise recounted, trying to calm him down, trying to understand what was going on in your mind that you did something like that. "Because I know my cousin, he's 15 years old. He is not that type of person. I wouldn't wish this on nobody. But spending the night in that house, why would you end it with him there? Like that?" Anissa recounted that night. She expressed her internal conflict, caught between two families, with her own 16-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old cousin facing a life sentence. Initially, Annalise only told police she knew they were looking for her cousin, but that she didn't believe he was capable of the alleged crime. As detectives escorted her from the station, they appealed to her as a mother. How would she feel if it had been one of her children, her 6-year-old son or 4-year-old daughter, killed in their home? This question gave Annalise pause. She then revealed she had more information to offer. Back inside the station, she delivered the stunning confession. Her cousin had offered her a full confession the night before. Surveillance footage from the neighborhood on the afternoon of the murder captured a sequence of events that aligned perfectly with Annalise's startling account. Just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Martise was dropped off by Alexis at his friend's home in the subdivision near the Jugga household. An internal camera captured him by the front door, dressed in dark wash jeans, a gray hoodie, white sneakers, and carrying a black backpack. He was then spotted leaving the house on a bike shortly after. Between his friend's home and the Jugga residence, a house with a doorbell camera captured a figure on a bike, wearing a gray hoodie, dark pants, white shoes, and carrying a backpack, traveling west in the direction of Kaye's house. Across from the Jugga's home lay Horizon Park, a large open green space with a playground, walking trails, and sports fields, lined with trees along the roadside. If concealed within the tree line, the front of the Jugga home would be perfectly visible. Annalise explained that Martise had left his bike amongst the trees, changed his clothing, and then kept a watchful eye on the house. His original intention, he told his cousin, was only to enter and shoot Kaye once, maybe twice. He watched as Stephanie and Kaye returned home and entered through the garage. He knew their schedule. Nick would be at work, Mason still at school. From another camera across the street, a figure, now dressed all in black and without a backpack, though still wearing white shoes, approached the house. They stayed close to the walls of the neighboring homes and moved directly underneath the camera positioned in the corner of the Jugga's garage before entering through the open door. Had their camera system been working that day, which it was not, the attackers' movements would have avoided capture, at least by the Jugga family's camera. After entering the house, there was a chilling period of just over 1 minute, approaching 90 seconds, before shots were heard ringing out. At first, there was just one. 16 seconds passed before another was heard. Then the shots continued in quick succession, 7 in total. The attacker was inside the house for a total of 3 minutes and 40 seconds. But then they were captured running from the garage and sprinting back down the street in the direction they came, towards Horizon Park. The same Nest doorbell camera that had captured the hooded figure riding leisurely towards the park an hour earlier, taking roughly 8 seconds to pass by, now also showed them returning. The rider was moving much faster, passing the home in only 2 seconds this time, traveling in the opposite direction. The returning figure again wore the gray hoodie, suggesting to investigators that he had changed back into his original clothing before leaving the area, just as Annalise had said. The trip back was recorded at 3:04 in the afternoon, 2 minutes after Stephanie managed to place the call to 911. Martis Fuller was subsequently charged with first-degree intentional homicide and attempted first-degree homicide. His trial was scheduled for February 2020. Before it could commence, he found himself in further trouble. Prosecutors alleged that Martis, with the help of certain family members, was attempting to tamper with the jury. "We were monitoring some jail phone calls from the defendant," a prosecutor stated. "The allegation is that the defendant got the names off of a chart of the potential jurors, that the defendant then memorized those names and made some assumptions about who was related to those individuals, and then began to try to contact people to get in touch with them. They tried to contact. It was in their house." The gravity of such an act, prosecutors emphasized, strikes at the very integrity of a jury trial. At a pretrial hearing, Martis's mother, Elise Fuller, was also arrested after an outburst in the courtroom, expected to be charged with obstructing an officer. The murder trial eventually commenced in May. The prosecution painted a vivid, horrifying picture for the jury. On May 9th of 2019, the unimaginable happened to the Jugga family, a person that they shared Christmas Day with, that they opened their home and their hearts to, and let him share time with their precious daughter, took her life, and he looked at Stephanie Jugga in the face after all their time together and tried to take her life too. And when she tried to reason with him, he told her, "Yes, I do," and shot her twice. The prosecution meticulously outlined the chaos that had consumed Martis Fuller's life between March and May of 2019. He had been expelled from Bradford High School, ending his football dreams, and, due to a family dispute, found himself homeless, transient, relying on Wi-Fi for internet access, begging, and depending on friends for rides. This period of instability left the 15-year-old frequently frantic and overwhelmed, struggling to survive. The prosecution structured their case around 2 contrasting timelines. The first was Kaye's reality, her desperate attempts to escape a toxic relationship and ensure her own safety. The second was Martis's timeline, in which he grew progressively more enraged over his escalating loss of control, first over Kaye, then over his own life circumstances. This progression, they argued, led to a series of deliberate decisions in the week before the murder. First, he spoke with multiple friends about acquiring a gun and ammunition, ultimately obtaining both. Chillingly, he was photographed posing with his newly acquired handgun 7 days before he decided to use it, showing it off and bragging to friends. 3 days before the murder, he told a friend that Kaye had ruined his life and that he wanted to kill her. 2 days before, he scoured her Facebook page, trying to locate her. He also took a bike from one friend and then stashed it at another's home, just blocks from the Jugga house. He began staking out the street during the day and night, staring at her bedroom window. On May 9th, the very day of the murder, Martise reached out to his friend Desiree, asking her to do that hit with him. She understood exactly what he meant. He had mentioned it twice earlier in the week. He wanted Kaye dead. Prosecutor: did he make any suggestions about what he wanted to do to his ex-girlfriend? Desiree: yes. Prosecutor: what did he say? Desiree: that he wanted to kill her. Prosecutor: what did you say to that? Desiree: I listened. Prosecutor: and do you remember what his message to you was? Desiree: to do the hit with him. Prosecutor: what did you understand that to mean? Desiree: the obvious, to kill the ex-girlfriend like he had talked about the day before. Prosecutor: it says, I'm so mad. You need to do that to her. Say that again. Desiree: I'm so mad. You need to do that to her. Prosecutor: and what is the day and time that message was sent to you? Desiree: Thursday at 11:52 a.m. Desiree refused to take part, though she told no one about the conversation until after Kaye was dead. By the time she testified at trial, she was already serving time at a juvenile facility for multiple unrelated convictions. Investigators were able to locate the murder weapon with the help of another one of Martise's cousins, a man named Dantrell Seymour. Dantrell led police to a drain sewer in Racine, where the 15-year-old had wrapped the gun in a diaper taken from a family member's house and dropped it in. Had they not been led to it, detectives believed they would have never found it. The same was true for his changing clothing, the black hoodie and white shoes that Martise was thought to have worn into the Jugga house. Police were never able to locate them, but assumed, after discovering how he disposed of the gun, that these items were also likely dumped into a sewer somewhere between Kenosha and Racine, too many to search. They did recover Martis's other clothing and the black backpack seen in surveillance footage, still with him when Ananice turned him into the police the following day. In outlining Martis's mindset and motive, the assistant principal at Bradford High School, Jill Schwenzen, testified to the behavior that led to his expulsion. Ms. Schwenzen, the school's disciplinarian, routinely dealt with misbehaving teens. But Martise Fuller, she stated, was different. Even after years of dealing with difficult and even violent offenders as a social worker, Martise Fuller had scared her. She spoke of his intense anger over being separated from Kaye at school. Then, after he violated the agreement and learned he would be expelled, he called every office in the school repeatedly, trying to reach her to have the expulsion overturned. He would not accept her decision. She eventually had to hang up on him. He was very angry with me. He called me a liar. He told me that I didn't know what I was talking about or what I had seen. He put his finger in my face. We had to take a break for him to take a walk. Ultimately, we had to call Dad to convince him to sign it. She added, I had told both students that I was going to split them up. They had several classes together, and Martise did not want that to happen. And there was a day during his suspension that he was calling every office in the school building trying to get to me so he could convince me not to change their schedules. This was an extreme case for me. I was scared. You were scared of Martise? Yes. I explained to him that this is what was going to happen. He kept trying to tell me that that's not what Kaye wanted, that that's not what he wanted, that it wasn't as bad as what I thought. I ultimately had to hang up the phone on him because he would not stop talking. Martise's defense team tried to poke holes in what seemed like an airtight case of his guilt. One suggestion was that Stephanie Jugga, in the chaos and trauma of the attack, had misidentified her daughter's ex-boyfriend as the killer. Because of the ongoing conflict between him and the family, it would have been natural to assume it was Martise she encountered, even if it had been a complete stranger, they argued. And after this initial identification, investigators had not explored any other suspects. However, Stephanie Jugga's testimony was compelling and left little room for doubt. And I went running out of my bathroom through my bedroom and stopped in the doorway of my bedroom. Facing me was Martis with a gun. Did you say anything to him when you saw him? I did. I stopped in my doorway and I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God, Michael." I said, "Please, you don't have to do this." And he looked at me and he said, "Yes, I do." Stephanie explained how she tried to render aid to Kaye despite her own injury. It was very painful, but I didn't care. Trying to save her was more important. Annalise also told jurors about the confession her cousin made to her on the night of the murder. It was strange, she said, that he arrived at her home at all, as they had never been very close. She simply listened as he began recounting what had happened, then called the police early the next morning. The detectives was telling me to put my daughter in their shoes and to see how I would feel about, something happening like that to my daughter. So what did you say that the defendant, Martise Fuller, had told you about what happened at the Jugga house that day? Well, he told me that he was watching her house for quite a while and that he knew when she would be alone at her house. And then he said that when he walked in, they were listening to music and Kaylie was in her room and with the door cracked or something like that. And he said that he shot at her once and he freaked out and he snapped and shot at the mom twice. The defense did not call any witnesses and Martis did not take the stand to testify. The state closed by outlining the sheer number of absurd coincidences that would need to have taken place for his claim of innocence to be viable. That Martis was unlucky enough to be misidentified at the scene, that his own cousin would know so many of the details of the crime before investigators had uncovered any footage or even completed an analysis of the crime scene, and that the confession she outlined to them would later be supported by so many facts. And to what your friend says is the gun you showed him just days before the murder. The defense's last effort was to suggest that whoever the shooter was, they did not have the requisite time to leave the Jugga home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, run to the park, change clothes, then be the same person captured riding the bike in the opposite direction just 4 minutes later. The timeline, they said, was impossible. In rebuttal, the state suggested the timeline was in fact flawless. It was 0.32 miles from the park to the Jugga house, which could be sprinted by a high school athlete in less than a minute. Riding a bike from the park to the house with a doorbell camera, a distance of 0.17 miles at the speed the rider was going, would take only 30 to 40 seconds. That left a comfortable 2 to 3 minutes to change clothing, and the clothes they believed he was wearing, a black warm-up suit designed to be pulled over other clothing, would have come off quickly. The jury returned with their verdict in a few short hours. The verdicts read as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of attempted first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 2 of the information. After the verdict was read, Martis looked to his family in the gallery. The chilling realization that, at the age of 16, he was likely to spend the rest of his life in prison must have set in slowly. It took a minute or two, but then he tore off his face mask and began to sob. At his sentencing hearing, Martis had his attorney read a prepared statement. He wrote that he was sorry for what had happened to Kaye, but he maintained his innocence of murder. Truthfully, I am sorry about the pain you've all suffered through this, but more importantly, the loss of my ex-girlfriend Kaye that I loved too. So, I am sorry. Despite the hatred that is against me, I still am sorry, but I have to continue to stand innocent because I am, and I know that I've barely showed emotion throughout my time, but in all honesty, it is because it's hard to have tears left to cry knowing my mom lost a son. One of her children, too. The judge's response was stark. You sat emotionless until the verdict was returned. You seem to have no ethos, no regret, no sorrow, no empathy. You are for you and no one else. You are a very dangerous and a damaged human being. Martis Fuller was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. He is currently serving his sentence at the Green Bay Correctional Institute in Wisconsin, where his family visits often. Just over 5 years after her death, on what would have been her 20th birthday, Stephanie Jugga spoke about the profound loss and how much Kaye is still missed. Today, we celebrate Kaye even though it's not the same, and this is our 5th birthday without her. I mean, how can it be 5 birthdays without her? And it just seems like everything happened yesterday, and that was the tragic case of Kaylie Juga. Her vibrant life tragically cut short by a brutal act of obsession. This story serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that can lurk even in the most seemingly idyllic settings, and the devastating power of control that turns to violence. It also speaks to the incredible strength of a mother's love and a community's enduring grief. Thank you for joining me, Kevin, here at Just Thought Lounge. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, justice, though often a long and painful road, strives for an undeniable truth. I'll see you in the next one.